Hi, this is Kevin. Welcome to my tutorial for how to read a grading rubric for a practice assignment. And what do I mean by practice assignment? Well, I just mean a regular homework assignment. In my courses, in the regular homework assignments, we practice the skills that we're learning in the course. Okay, and in the final assignments, which are not practice assignments, and they're things like uh, a paper um, or a final project or a final exam, although I typically don't give final exams. Um, we're not practicing. We're demonstrating what we learned through practicing. So in the example I'm going to show you now, I'm going to show the grading rubric for my IS 430 course, which is a Python programming course. And the practice assignments in that course are called coding assignments. Okay, so this is just how to read a grading rubric for a coding assignment in this case. Okay. Uh, how's this different from a final project grading rubric? Well, these practice assignments have a points score guarantee feature, okay, that's not available in final assignments. Okay, this is why we have a separate tutorial on how to read them. Okay, so I'm going to show you here the grading rubric for the first coding assignment that we're doing in the current semester of IS 430. That's a Python programming course. Okay, and this is organized kind of like an HTML page, right? Although it's a printed medium. Okay, and there are a bunch of colored blocks of text, right? So this is the heading up here, and we can see that it is for IS 430 Foundations of Information Processing. I'm the instructor. It's from the Chapter 1 coding assignment of the Zell third edition books. And the course component is coding assignments, and what we're seeing here is a grading rubric. Okay, each of these light green sections is a section. Okay, so there's a section for Basepoint allocation. There's one for submission. There's one for exercise 1. There's a section for exercise 2. And there's a section for exercise 3. And that's it. We just have a total at the bottom. And not surprisingly, the total adds up to 100 points. So there's 100 available points on the assignment. Okay? Okay. So each section can be divided up into items. Okay, so the first one, this Basepoint allocation, only has one item, base points, and those are worth 23 available points. Okay, and what's this for? This is just for handing in the assignment and having it accepted as having been on time. I'm spotting you points. Okay, aren't I a great guy? I've spotted you 23 points. Then we've got submission. Okay, that's got 2 items under it, timeliness and file submitted. Okay, so timeliness, what do we see here? Well, you can see that it's worth 16 available points. That's a lot of points for being on time. And we see 2 boxes here. The first has the requirements you have to meet in order to get those points. okay, must be submitted by date and time indicated in the weekly schedule. And then we've got a box here for percent credit. And these are the choices that we have when we grade your submission. We're going to pick from among these three. It's either going to be on time, it's going to be late, or it's going to be not submitted or submitted too late. So you get 100% of the points if it's on time. You get 0% if it's late. So in this case, if it's on time, you get 16 points. If it's late, you get 0. So you can see that there's a big penalty for being late. Okay. And the incentives in these practice assignments is always to hand them in on time. The reason being, we're going to review the solutions in the next class, okay? Because I think that's a big part of the way that adults learn, okay? And you'll have lost most of the opportunity. You'll have lost a lot of learning opportunity if you hand it in late and we review the solution before you get to do it. Okay, so that's a big bunch of points, and that's the rationale. Okay, file submitted is 10 available points, and we've got a list of 5 requirements, and then we've got the percents that are going to be chosen from. So it turns out that for us to grade your assignment, we need to be able to have a certain workflow in order to be able to do that efficiently and effectively. And so I've set up these requirements such that when you follow them, we're going to be able to grade your assignment efficiently and effectively. So we want you to submit only one file. In this case, it has to be a zip file in this particular course. The name of the file has to conform to the rules that are in the instructions document. It must contain a properly zipped PyCharm project directory. Again, it's a Python coding course, programming course, and the directory contents must be properly named PyCharm project files. These are all things that we need in order to get your work graded efficiently and effectively. So if you meet all the expectations, if you meet all the requirements, you'll get 100% of 10 points. That's 10 points. If you nearly meet it, typically if you miss one of these, we'll give you 50%. If you miss 2 or more, we'll give you 0. Okay. Okay, so that's the first group of points. Now I'm going to take you over here to a little spreadsheet that I did. Okay, that kind of summarizes this particular grading rubric, and it allows me to call attention to kind of general features that they have. Okay. Generally speaking, we've got 2 categories of points. We have the ones that I have down here in the blue that has to do with the content that you handed in. Okay, I call them content points, right? So what did you hand in? You know, was it complete? Was it correct? Okay. And then we have these other points up at the top, which have to do with, did you follow the procedures, right? So 49 of the points that you get are non-content points. okay? And 51 are content points, right? And so you may say, oh, um, I lose 16 points for timeliness, or I lose 10 points for having the file being not the right way. Well, you can look at it that way, or you can say, Kevin gave me 23 points just because, and if I follow directions, he's going to give me another 26, in which case, without even having to really without regard to how well I did the work in terms of the content, I have a chance to get 49 points. That's a pretty good deal. Okay. So, of the things that you hand in, of the exercises that you do, they typically add up to 51 points. So 49 and 51, it adds to 100. Okay, so the stuff we just went through is part of the 49. Okay, in the example that we're going to be looking at here, there are 3 exercises that make up the content, right? So the points available are pretty big, okay, because we're only dividing it up 3 ways, and I'll talk a bit about how we divide it up. So let's go back to the rubric itself, okay, and let's get down to the content part, okay. And here's exercise 1, and exercise 1 is a regular exercise, okay, and that's true of exercise 2, and that's not true of exercise 3, it's a challenge exercise. So what's the difference between a regular exercise and a challenge exercise? Well, the difference is this, okay? You need to show a good faith effort in all the regular exercises in order to qualify for the grading deal, okay? In order to qualify for the grading guarantee, you need to hand in work that shows that you made a good faith effort to do the exercise on all the regulars. Okay. Do you have to do that for the challenge? No. Okay. The challenge is up to you. Okay. Now let's look back at the point allocation, and I'll tell you where we're headed with this classification things as regular or challenge. My design for these practice assignments, again, in this case, we're calling them coding assignments. My design is if you meet all the requirements and do all the regular exercises, you'll score 95. So it meets expectations on all the things that you're expected to do is 95 points. That's a solid A. Okay, well, how do you get from 95 to 100? Well, you do the challenge. Okay, the challenge is always worth 5 points. Okay, and you may look at this and say, okay, now we've got 3 exercises here. Exercise 1 is worth 11 plus 12, that's 23 points. Exercise 2 is worth 23 points. So the regular exercises subtotal is 46. Okay, and then exercise 3, which is at least as hard as the other or harder, is only worth 5. And my answer to that is the last 5 points of the grading in this course is really hard to get. That's the difference between an A and an A+. Okay. So people tend to do very well in this course. There's a lot of people who get A's. Okay. Quite a few. All right. So it's definitely possible to get an A, but you have to work very hard to get an A+. There's only a few A pluses. Okay. And that's because of the difference in in the way that we're allocating the points for the regulars as compared to the challenges. Okay, so the regulars are always going to add up to 46. If there's, I think there's always at least two, right? So probably the most that each of the exercises is ever worth is 23 each. Okay, but it might be that there are 4 regular exercises and 1 challenge. Okay, so then each regular exercise in that case would be worth about half of what these are actually worth. Okay, so that's how the points are allocated. So again, the non-content subtotal that includes the base points, the ones I spot you, plus the timeliness in the file is submitted, they're always going to add up to 49. Okay, the regular subtotal is always going to add up to 46, no matter how many exercises there are, and the challenge is always going to be equal to 5. And then the total of those 3 is, again, always going to be equal to 100. Okay, so let's go back over here and take a look at exercise 1. Okay. Exercise 1 is a regular exercise, so everybody's expected to do it in order to get their in order to qualify for the grading deal. Okay. And it has 2 items inside of it, 2 parts: completeness and technique. And this is the way I do all my programming courses. Typically, I do the same thing in other courses like systems analysis is not a programming course per se, for instance. So, I may break the 2 items down slightly differently, but this completeness for one item and technique for the other one is pretty typical of all my courses. Okay, and in the completeness, we're dealing with, is everything done? Okay, so in a programming sense, must produce expected quantity of results, must produce exact values expected, results must be formatted as expected. So did it do what it was supposed to do? Okay, and then the various measures of that, 100% for meets all expectations, 90% for nearly meets all expectations, missed one little thing. Okay, 75 for meets most expectations, missed a big thing or 2 little things. Okay, and then we go down 50, 25, and 10, and those are the descriptions. Okay, and once we get down to that kind of a level, we're kind of saying, did they do about half of it? Did they do about a quarter of it? Did they do none of it? Okay, we're trying to match the percentages. All right. The second part, the technique, has to do with, did you use the features and the good practices that we showed you, that you read about in the readings, that we talked about in the lecture, that I demonstrated in the tutorials? Okay, and for the most part, I've listed here the different good practices that we're expecting. Is it exhaustive? Is this an exhaustive list? Well, it's close to it, but maybe not exhaustive. It's pretty close. Okay. And again, we've got the same scale for these. So meets all expectations, everything's perfect. Meets nearly all expectations, got a little something wrong. Okay. Meets most expectations. Uh, got one big thing wrong or two little things wrong. And then after that, we go down to percentages. Okay, so that's how we grade these. We're trying to separate, does the program do what we're expecting in a programming course? In a systems analysis course, does the deliverable that you created, um, does it meet uh, the ideas that we're trying to cover with, whatever the document is that we're trying to produce? And then the second part, did we follow all the practices that we learned in the course for how to create one of these? Okay. So, exercise one, regular exercise, 2 items, completeness and technique. Exercise two, same deal. Exercise three is the same kind of work. Okay, sometimes the challenge exercises are a little different. I may ask you to write something, write a couple of paragraphs about something, in which case, um, the requirements in the two sections will be slightly different. Okay, and there we go. And then down at the bottom, we have the total of the points, 100. And then we have a note about the grading deal. And the grading deal says that this grading rubric allows for adjustments to be made in your content point score. The total number of content points available to be awarded is 51. Okay, and if we come back here, again, 51 content points, 51, right? Okay, and then we say an adjustment of up to 36 points may be made for submissions that have a low content point score and yet meet the following criteria. Assignment must be submitted on time. Work submitted must show good faith effort on all regular exercises. Okay, so I've created this to give you the confidence to go and try your hand at each of these things. And even if you stumble and fall, okay, you're going to get some support on the grade. Okay. It says here that we will give you, if you need them, up to 36 content points. Okay. What would 36 content points give you? Well, provided that you got all the non-content points, that would give you an 85, right? Okay. Now, if you didn't get the non-content points, like for instance, if you messed up the file, well, then you'd only get a 75. Okay. Or in order to qualify for the deal, you have to meet the timeliness. Okay, so the only way you could qualify for the deal and get less than an 85 would be if you somehow screwed up the file and didn't get that 10, you'd get a 75. Okay, and my idea here is just to give you the confidence to try this stuff out, give it your best attempt, and hand it in before we review it, because that's where the learning is going to go on. Okay? So that's how to read a grading rubric for a practice assignment. Okay? And good luck on your assignment, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.